Hello, I'm PS3 and welcome back to the video. So today I'm here in my creative world to talk about and show you some of the tiny Minecraft tips that I've picked up and shown over the years that you might have missed or that you might just not have seen yet. And I figured this would be kind of fun to go through because not everyone has watched every ToyCat video. YouTube makes that less likely as time goes on as I upload more, but a lot of people have watched them and I figured it's a cool way to kind of compromise rather than making the same video. Why not give a little bit of a homage and show off some of my favorite tips that I've given out over that time, and that's why in today's video I'm going to be giving you 16 tiny, really useful Minecraft tips that I think you'll appreciate and that you might get nostalgia from if you've watched me for a long time on YouTube. So hopefully you do enjoy this video. Like if you do like it, because it helps out the channel, and listen, you do like this sort of video where I show off a bit of my creative world bit by bit by showing off some of the tiny tips that you can just see as you look around it. So with that said, let's get straight into it, shall we? And let's start with the very first little tip that is to do with Minecraft, and that is, it's pretty useful that you might not know, and it's to do with these little dead bushes over here, because dead bushes and shrubs, when you punch them, now drop a stick sometimes, and that means that, you know, this stick is really useful because it means if you spawn in a desert and you think, well, there's nothing I can do about this, well, I guess I'm just dead, well, you actually can get some sticks at the very least from these dead bushes, which is really useful because it means that obviously, again, you can have this, you know, you can have some sticks that turn into something else, you need less wood, and it's just a really useful little tip because they, you know, to punch a dead bush takes no time at all, so you can even do it while you're sprinting, and you can get some sticks while taking no extra effort, which I think is pretty great. So yeah, punching dead bushes will give you sticks, and that's something you might not have known. Something else you might not have known, we'll use sticks as our example, is the fact that you can cover hoppers and they will still work. You can cover them with all sorts of things. I made an entire video on like all the different things you could cover them with, but one of the things that you probably aren't aware of is they'll work even through stuff like cake. That's right, you can put cake on top of it and it will still absorb stuff. It'll even work with stuff like a pressure plate, which really looks like it shouldn't, and the crazy thing about the pressure plate is it'll work once until you weigh down the pressure plate. So yeah, weirdly enough, you can't actually, you know, hold down the pressure plate in that way, and it's a really wacky thing to do with the hopper where you can go below a pressure plate, and that's something you might not have realized that you could do. Look, I've got like tiny little peg legs, and it really looks like that's a real thing. So with that said, let's move on to the next little tip that you might not have known, and that is that you can take a you know, an armor stand like you can see right here, and you can equip it with like a bunch of things you probably didn't figure, such as for instance right here, you can equip it with an elytra if you really want to. So we can go ahead, we can take out our sword, we can put the elytra on there, and I guess that's kind of nice. But the way more important thing than putting an elytra on there is the fact that if you want to have a scarecrow or like a fully, you know, like a real looking armor piece, because if you put the, by the way, you can put armor stands and hoppers and it will still put stuff in there, but yeah, basically it combines with the last tip. But if we put on our helmet, as you can see, it doesn't look like a person, but if we put on a pumpkin, then it looks way more like a real person. It looks like a real little, you know, thing in the distance there, and even more realistically than that, you can put a Steve head on there, and it really looks like there's a Minecraft character to some extent at least. So yeah, bear in mind you can't get the Steve head in survival, so in survival this is the best you can do, but it's one of these tiny little building tips that might help you out at some point in the future. The fourth little tip is to do with TNT. TNT explodes some surfaces a lot more than others, so this is why, for instance, glass, which you can probably imagine, glass explodes a lot easier than stone, and that's why if we do this, it's going to be fun. By the way, let's just explode both of these right now. If we explode both of these, as you can see, the entirety of that glass around it, with very few exceptions, just entirely vanishes, whereas if we place it down on something else, it would be less so. But this is also true for netherrack, and this means if you want to make some pretty crazy explosions, all you have to do is go to the nether, and you can cause an immense amount of damage compared to what you probably expect. So next up, we have this bizarre floating minecart. Don't ask me what's happened here, by the way. This wasn't the original tip, but this is something that's fascinating, and I'm going to look at anyway, because this, as you can see right here, is a minecart that's floating in the air. But the original tip was meant to be that you can put mobs in, you know, into minecarts if you spawn them, or if you like take them across the minecart tracks. But again, like I said, way more interestingly than that is the fact that sometimes if you leave a mob in there, then you'll end up with a minecart which is floating in the air. So again, if you're curious, I had a horse in here before. I guess the horse died at some point in this video, and now I've got a floating minecart, and boom, I've just discovered a glitch. But more importantly, the actual thing that you're gonna, you know, keep mind of, if it'll actually work, is you can actually put villagers, put any mob you want in there, including villagers, including llamas, anything that can't naturally go, you can put in there by just putting it in the pathway of the minecart. So boom, now we've got a floating llama in a minecart, and I guess that's just a part of today's video. The fact that llamas can float is now a fact of the world. I guess we're just going to accept for now, and I don't know if I'm ready for that, but I guess that's something we've just got to deal with. So yeah, boom, floating minecarts in the sky, and what the heck is going on there? Anyway, with that said, let's move on to the next little tip, which is not going to be a glitched, hopefully, and that is to do with the soul sand below ice, or ice below soul sand, because soul sand is a really slow block block when you place it down by itself. You walk on it, it's really slow, but if you put ice below it, the two effects stack because it's not a full block, which means you get this even slower effect, which feels a little bit icy while still being very slow. Then, if you want to stack this even higher, you put cobwebs on top of the soul sand, on top of the ice, and you can go as slow as you humanly can in Minecraft, because you can stack this even more, and as you can see, look at this speed build ready, but then if you want to stack that even more, you can crouch through this, and you're going at this tiny speed, and then if you put your sword into block mode, you'll go at this speed right here. You can barely even notice that we're moving, and even if we try to get out right now, we wouldn't be out for another solid minute or so, because walking like this is just so insanely slow, that yeah, if you want to like slow people down, or slow yourself down, or just have some fun, that's how you would do it. So let's move on to the next little thing you might not know about Minecraft, and that is the fact that you can actually burn carpet to put a fire in the air. So yeah, I've got my flint and steel here for a reason. If we burn the floor, the fire is where the floor is. But if there's carpet on the floor, like we can make happen right here, by the way, the carpet's in the sky because we have string above it, so another little tip right there. But if we take the string away and we get the carpet back, and then we put the carpet down on the ground, then what we'll be able to see is right next to this, we can have some fire in the sky, which means you can have like multi-layer fires. You can do stuff like this where it kind of looks realistic, and yeah, you might like that if you want to have more of a, again, a fire on the ground is just a fire on the ground, but this is like a more 3D fire, so boom, you can make fire in the sky by just putting carpet there. This is like double level fire sky, so we can see underneath it, but if you just want to have it one layer into the sky, put carpet on the ground and make that happen. So next up, we have one of my favorite little ones, which is to do with the note blocks, and that is the fact that every note block can be a musical, or is a musical note, and it kind of correlates like so. So again, I haven't actually tuned this in a while, but every single one of these notes applies to a note block, so these should be all about right, and you can see they make a scale. So why is that important? Well, that's important, by the way. So you can see this is D sharp, for instance, this is C sharp, this is A sharp, G sharp, etc. The reason this is important is because if you look at any sheet note music and you can turn that into notes, which is something I think a lot of schools teach, but I don't know personally, but if you do that, or you know someone who can do that, you can set up stuff like this. So this took me ages to do because I had to learn by hand, but this is something I did a while ago, and you might recognize the song it makes. Okay, this bit kind of messes up. But still, do you recognize what the song is? It's The Lost Woods, but done with note blocks. You can do this with any sort of song. You can make really complex stuff, and you might be curious of like, how do they make those crazy note blocks tutorials on YouTube? It's because they actually just know how to convert, sheet music or notation into note blocks, which means you can do stuff like this. Okay, so that's, again, it's a little bit messed up, but you get the point. The basic tune is there, and if you're good at it, you can do some really crazy stuff, and if you set up some redstone on that, you can make songs in Minecraft just by using this simple thing. So let's move on next to the next one here, which is the fact that water can be stopped using a bunch of different blocks. So yeah, we can have water which floats essentially in midair, and all you have to do to make that happen is to have yourself, some either signs, some ladders, so fence posts will work, some iron bars will work, literally a regular block would work, but also a pressure plate even. All of these blocks will stop water flowing outwards, which means you can have this kind of floating in midair water, which is something you might rather want. So boom, that's how you can make water flow midair. All you have to do is use some weird blocks which kind of stop it indirectly. Next up, we've got one which you probably should be aware of, but if you're not, it's really quite fun. If you put a map into an item frame, it fills up the entire block, and this means you get this rather interesting thing where you can't really tell what the block is, and if you cover an entire thing by frames, then you can kind of cover up the block in its entirety with what your maps say. So obviously my map right now is mostly green, but if you had an entirely green map or an entirely brown map or anything like that, you could cover something with it, and then it would be, again, you can kind of cover it entirely because it's like a painting almost when you do it like that. Fun little fact you might not know. Next up, we've got the fact that you can crouch on magma to not take damage. Magma's pretty painful, and unless you have Frostwalker boots, which we don't right now, you have to crouch if you want to avoid damage, and that's something a lot of people don't know, which means that when people set traps like this, all you have to do is be like, well, I'll just crouch across it. So yeah, I recommend like trying to like jump crouch like that, and you can get some more distance covered, but still, you can go across this whole thing, and it's pretty fun and easy like that. So with that said, let's move on to the next one here, which is the fact that you can combine half slabs. Yeah, that's right. There's so many tips here, like I'm just going to run out of steam before the end here, but the next one is that you can combine half slabs together. It's sort of. So the way this works is if you cover your floor in half slabs, you kind of change what people think the half slabs are, and this means you can take any two half slabs and you can combine them together, because really this is just the top half of one block and the bottom half of another. So as you can see right here, That's all the block that's there, but if we then remove this block and put something else there, we could do that. Or we can have, like, as you can see, half wood here and half that, and this means you can have all these sorts of combinations of half of one block and half another one, which makes people think like, wow, you've hacked the game, but really, you've just changed perspective, and perspective is really, really valuable in a bunch of Minecraft, and here's a way you might not have realized you could use that. So, next up here, we've got the cobweb glitch, already just the bizarreness of cobwebs, because if you break a bunch of gravity blocks into cobwebs, you can create this very weird slowdown effect, and if you do this on a fence post, you can break the game, but something that's always going to be true is the fact that you can cause this to happen, where you just get a giant black box that can kind of confuses people, and once it finally reaches the bottom, it turns into items, which causes this really, really big slowdown in a second. And yeah, it's the strangest thing to watch, right? Just the fact that there's this tower, which by the way is going to keep falling just slowly, but bit by bit. You can have this like weird black tower that it just kind of exists because there's lots of blocks in the same space. Fun fact you might not have known. So finally, we've got the fences, which can work as we've got ladders that can work behind fences. So this is one of my favorite little ones, and again, I've always wanted to show this off again sometime. All of these things have been like little things that I really wanted to show people again, because again, I like to teach people things, as it turns out, and this is one I feel like a lot of people missed in this original video, but that's the fact that if you have a ladder or you have vines behind a fence, it will still carry you over the fence. So as you can see right here, we make a jump and we can climb over the fence because the ladder somehow still takes effect of us, even though we're all the way back here. Again, it's kind of magical in my opinion, but it's pretty cool stuff you can do, and this still works with vines, and it allows you to do some pretty nutty stuff. So finally, we've just got two more little ones, and these are kind of the biggest ones for 15 and 16. What are the two best little tips that I'd love to teach people? The first one is that you should eat golden carrots if you want to eat the best food for creative / survival, or if you just can afford them in survival. It only takes like a gold ingot. Then what you want to do is make golden carrots. These have the best saturation value in the game, which means when you eat one, you don't go hungry for the longest out of any food. And given that they recently changed the way saturation works, that lasts even longer, you can last so long on a single golden carrot that you really should just consider doing that. So boom, that's what I would definitely recommend. Golden carrots are the best food in the game for saturation, which makes them the best food in the game, period, if you're willing to get some. So the final little one here is going to be patched out soon, so just keep in mind, it's not going to be forever, but it's a really fun one, because if you have boats and you have ice, they will go super fast because of the way physics are handled, and this means that you can have like some ice and then a big gap in the middle, and you can do insane stuff like this. Look how fast I can go so quickly, and yeah, I really love the idea. It's something you can do as of this update. And also, while we're talking about the boats, the same thing with the mob spawning thing actually also works with boats, so you can spawn mobs and get them in here. I don't think it works with hostile mobs properly, because you don't want them in there, but you can, in theory, at least. There we go. You can get a little hostile mob in there, and although he can attack you while you're in the boat, as you can see, he's hugging me pretty hard right here. It's still something pretty cool that you can do. You can get in a boat with a little zombie, and it means you can keep hostile mobs in there. So yeah, it works for both both boats, and it works for other things as well. So yeah, pretty fun fact you might not have known about the husk. Boom, but he can still hit me there. So thank you for all very much watching this video. I hope you did all enjoy it. Let me know how many of these videos you recognize and you're like, oh yeah, I remember that video, because I love showing these different things off. By the way, I took all that damage and still only lost 2 hearts, which, with most other foods would be heresy. Let me know if you recognize these videos in the comments down below. If you did, like this video and let me know, because it helps out the channel a lot. And let us know you do like the Minecraft tip videos. Share them if you really liked it, and subscribe if you're new around here, because I make videos like this one every single day on my channel. And if you subscribe, you'll see them daily on your homepage. Again, if you do want to see any of these videos and you haven't already, please do search the channel. They've got like something like 3,000 Minecraft videos now. If you want to check one out and you're kind of just thinking like, I'd like to do something for the next little bit, that's a way you can do that. Again, YouTube doesn't really recommend that, but if you go to my channel page, you'll find a bunch of my videos there, and I'd love it if you did that. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.